What's the most aggressive move you've seen a buyer make in an attempt to kill competition in an auction process? I'm going to do a whole episode on opening moves and shutdown moves. And, we talked in the last session about the Dutch auction. We talked about the preemptive offer. Probably the most standard is the preemptive offer, right? If buyers really understand the context in terms of valuation as well as what the competitive scenario looks like. Sometimes they can slide in early in a process with a preemptive offer and basically lock out competition. I'm going to change this question a little bit from most aggressive to, let me say, most sophisticated, right? So sometimes these sorts of moves don't have to be aggressive. They just have to be insightful and sophisticated. And sometimes on the onset, they don't even seem aggressive, but the results and the consequences are that of aggression. I once saw a process where there were a small handful of buyers on a transaction. And let's say the price was $50 million at this point in time. A buyer was starting to get a little bit deal fatigued, and he was a little bit concerned that the seller was going to shop his offer. So he decided he was going to use effectively an opening maneuver and change process rules. And here's what he said. He wrote a letter that said, "Enclosed is a sealed bid. This is my best and final. And we're prepared to close immediately. You can open this bid on the following terms." And his terms were, this was the final round of bidding. The seller would take the best offer from this round and close that deal. No further shopping. All of the other bids had to be opened simultaneously with this bid, and all of the other bids needed to be exact dollar amounts. And what I mean by that, it couldn't be highest bidder plus $1, right? It couldn't be highest bid plus $1. It had to be actual dollar amounts. And I thought that was a pretty sophisticated way for a buyer to come in, change process rules, move a deal into final round, get all bidders to put their best and final on the table, and have the seller open them all up simultaneously, and thereby shutting out any additional competition, and as well as any additional shenanigans from the seller. So when I think about process rules, as we talked about in the last couple of sessions, there's a million different ways to run a process. And I think buyers who are sophisticated and experienced can think of very subtle ways to attempt to change process rules that sometimes sellers will just do, because sellers get deal fatigue as well and want to be done with the process. So I think it's important for you, if you're on the buy side, to think about what are the subtle ways that you could influence a seller to change process rules that might work in your favor.